About the film Time Cut, which is very similar to another time travel movie. We're not going to get into that debate here, y'all, because there's so many things about this film that I want to talk about first. That's going to be in my ending explain video that will come out later, so stay tuned for that. This is my review, my thoughts on it, and I will tell you, this is a movie that I was excited for nonetheless. And yeah, I will tell you, for the most part, this movie does have some very good moments, but let's get into the buts. But before we do, I want to ask you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. We are on the road to 35,000 subscribers. Tomorrow we start a new look into the channel, and this will be probably the last-ish videos where it's not gonna look as good because we're planning to do a lot higher production, so stay tuned for that. But let's get into this movie that is directed by Hannah MacPherson and is a screenplay from Michael Kennedy and Hannah MacPherson together. And you also have Christopher Landon producing, so a very good amount of people here who have worked in the horror sphere, especially the newer horror sphere. So the film stars Madison Bailey. You also have Antonia Gentry, and it says a high school senior student and amateur inventor accidentally finds a time machine and travels back to 2003, the year her sister was murdered by an unknown killer. So in this film, you follow Madison Bailey, who plays Lucy. The older sister that was killed was actually Summer, who is played by Antonia Gentry. And I will tell you, this movie, for the most part, the premise is interesting, and yeah, we've seen this premise already in another film that starred Kid and Shipka, which came out a couple of years ago, Totally Killer, I believe last year. And I will tell you, there are a lot of similarities, but they have some differences in them, especially the tones are very different. Whereas I feel Totally Killer is more leaning in towards the comedy and all of that. This feels more melodramatic, a lot more serious in a way, trying to be. I say trying to be because there are moments where I don't know if it's trying to be serious or if it's trying to be funny, and that can kind of come off weird for the movie. It can kind of make it feel jarring at times, and that's my only big complaint here with the film, because I think for the most part there are some great moments in this movie. The whole nostalgia thing of the 2003s, I don't know, as a person that wasn't necessarily a teenager in 2003 and was a bit younger, it kind of did get to me. But some people I see online say that when they were in high school in 2003, this film didn't really capture that. And I don't think things will ever be able to capture such a unique time in your life, right? Because everybody has a different perception of life and all that. But I think that they really got it down with needle drops. I'm a sucker for needle drops, and there was a ton here that I really loved, and I don't care. Some people hate needle drops. I love needle drops in films, and I really appreciated that part of it. The Uggs in here and the snapbacks and all of that, definitely a thing I remember during the early 2000s and early 2010s. And yeah, that's what I'll say about the nostalgia bit about it. Like I said, I don't think anybody will ever be able to capture what it felt for universally everybody growing up at a certain time period, where there's the 2000s, the 90s, the 80s, 70s, 60s, 50s, whatever. I don't think it's a thing that's easy to get, right? Now, when it comes to the acting here, I think it's okay. There are moments when the acting, the line readings, and the way that certain things are edited and cut, that it's a bit awkward for me. And I don't know if that's for everybody who watched the movie, but some of the times these characters were talking to one another and it just felt like it was very, I would say, reading off the script. And I'm not blaming the actors or the directors. There's many things that go into a film, right? I think it would have done a bit better with maybe more cuts and maybe more tries for certain scenes, but I still enjoyed it for the most part. It's a very enjoyable film. I think that there's a ton of these characters here who do a good job with what they're given, and I just wish it was a little bit more pushed, maybe the performance and all of that. I see that the film currently does sit at a pretty low score, and you know, I always don't like to just bash on a movie or say it was bad and all of that. I do try to find things I enjoy about it. I do think that there are some very cool shots here. There's some great cinematography as well. I really love the look of the film. Also, the premise, like I said, it's interesting. It's something we've seen already, and that's not the fault of the film, as they were kind of filmed together at the same time. But I just think that there could have been a better way to really push this one in a direction where it felt much more different than Totally Killer. Because I think that for the most part, this movie had that sort of tone where it's a lot serious and darker, whereas Totally Killer felt more like a dark comedy. This did have a lot more drama and a little bit more of the characters like really exploring how they feel about their relationship with their family and stuff like that, which was some of the moments that I really enjoyed the most. The scare factor in here isn't really as present, but I'm okay with that because it felt more like it was trying to go into that drama route of things and be a bit more serious, which I would have been okay with that. Just have a little bit of a killer as a background, but still be a movie about siblings and sort of growing up, not knowing how like one other sibling was treated and the other one is treated differently, which is, I think, a common theme so many people can relate to, is this sort of perception that you are treated differently from your younger siblings or your older siblings. And I think it's an interesting premise throughout in the film. But like I said, there's just so many parts in this movie where the execution didn't really land with me, and it felt a bit like lackluster. And that was one of the problems I had with the movie overall. It's just some things I felt like if they gave it a bit more effort, especially with some of the line delivery, some of the acting at points, some of the editing, and the story in itself, the movie did start to sort of get a bit drawn out, and it kind of felt like I was just like, okay. And I think it also has a lot of moments where you see it coming, and that's not necessarily a bad thing for me because a movie is a story, and the story, you know what's going to come, right? But I don't really like when the story is so stretched out that you already start piecing it together in your head, and then you're just like, oh, when it finally happens, right? And that's not a problem, I would say, because I think that I myself try to really like zone out and just watch the movie. I don't try to beat the movie per se, like some people do try to do that too much. I'm just gonna go ahead and let it take me where it takes me. But this movie, it just took me a bit too long to get there. So by the time we got there, I had already kind of figured it out, right? But overall, Time Cut, I think, still is a movie that is worthy to check out if you just want like that nostalgia part of it. But I will tell you, if you're looking for scares, if you're looking for something like that's on the same level as Totally Killer, or a movie that's definitely going to be a film that's going to scare you and all of this, you're not going to get it here. There's some great cinematography, there's some great moments, but overall, it's just not a film I can go ahead and tell you, go watch it right now. Like, drop everything you're doing. Maybe you could have it as background, I don't know, but it's just not for me. It wasn't for me. I would just say go watch Totally Killer again. But nonetheless, I still think that I hope that everybody involved here moves on to other things and are able to keep pursuing what they're doing, but just not for me. I'm sorry. But anyways, as always, if you haven't already, subscribe, hit the notification bell. 35,000 subscribers is the goal. I'll see you all next time. Stay safe, stay positive.